Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Back to the TARDIS podcast, the podcast where we take a look at every single episode of the 2005 revival of BBC's Doctor Who. I'm Jeff.
I am Aurora.
And I'm Tyga.
And this week we are discussing the 2015 Christmas special, The Husbands of River Song by Stephen Moffat, which wraps a nice, neat bow on the River Song story arc, as well as allowing River to interact with someone that feels a bit more like her equal in 12. And yeah, I've long talked about how I feel like this is how River's arc is best done at the beginning and the end. And now that we've reached the end, I can not only confirm that, I can confirm that this episode is comfort food. It's really stupid in parts and has some holes and whatever, but it's just fun and nice and reminds me of a time when the show was actually good. Cough, cough.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I'll just say that the thing that really cracked us about this episode is that Greg Davies is in it, which we did not know and we're very surprised about.
I don't really know who Greg Davies is.
He is the Taskmaster.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just started watching that, and yeah, that was a pleasant surprise.
I don't know what that is, but sure.
It's a British kind of game show, but not for money, where he makes other comedians humiliate themselves performing dumb tasks. And it's really funny. And he's absolutely perfect for this role because he's just playing the Taskmaster again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like regular, like, fucking American, like, eat this, like, cockroach sandwich or stupid. It's like literally like one episode is just like, okay, in the fastest amount of time possible in this public area, find someone who is 55 and high five them. Whoever's quickest wins. Like, it's very stupid shit. So,
okay, all right.
There is one episode where somebody tries.
No, go ahead.
There is an episode where a comedian, in full seriousness, panics and attempts to pump an egg full of helium to make it float.
This sounds like some like icebreaker games at camp.
Yes.
It is psychological torture for comedians, who are, of course, one of the few justifiable targets for psychological torture.
I was gonna say. Anyways, yeah. No, it's just he does a good job. He's a very good pick for playing a shouting head who gets stuck in a bag for most of the episode.
Yeah, it's perfect casting.
Yeah.
It's also weird to revisit, like, that this is the Nardole, like, introduction episode.
Yeah,
I was
he's just
shocked
there.
about that.
He's just there.
I was like, wait, this is when Nardole comes in?
Yeah. Yeah, he's just there. Brain moment. So yeah, we pick and I think the thing that really makes this work for the first start of this too is how like it's the first time where you run into, at least on screen, where like you run into River Song shenanigans and she like actually ropes the Doctor, though admittedly she doesn't realize that it's the Doctor until surprisingly long amount of time into the episode.
Yeah, I was really shocked about that. I feel like that's definitely just like they needed to keep the joke going and it goes on way too long.
Well, because it allows Capaldi to play off it really well.
It does. Like, I don't lament that it goes on so long. It doesn't make much sense that it does, but I'm happy that it does.
This is all, all of that is worth it so he can have the moment where he just goes completely apeshit upon seeing the interior of the TARDIS and then looks directly at the camera and says, "Sorry, I've always wanted to see that done properly."
Oh yeah, and creates.
He's so fucking hammy about it.
Yeah, it's such a great situation for like camp, and you know, in any other episode I might complain about it, but it's like this is like Christmas fare. It's very like, I don't know. There's a lot of fluff. It's like
Yeah.
you don't take it too seriously until the very end. It's just, as you said, Jeff. It's perfect comfort food.
And sometimes having fluff is, you know, it's nice. It's a nice way to wind down from the high stakes and high emotions of the previous special.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have fluff that's like good
Yeah.
and actually meaningful, unlike I don't know, the last 5 years of the show.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm going to be meaner than usual towards Chibnall today because I was just looking over an episode list to figure out which of these episodes we are even going to cover for the show. And just, God, I don't want to rewatch most of these. I really don't.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and what I want to focus in on this first. It's just like, maybe it's because we haven't seen River in the show for like, from our perspective, in like quite a while, but it was just,
Yeah.
it felt oddly refreshing.
Not since last year, yeah.
Yeah, and like oddly weird that like arguably her most like quote unquote like hashtag problematic is like when she's the most of a comfort character, because he finally makes it clear that the way River acts is like a total charade and a mask. When it's like, when he's always been coy about that in the past, he's finally decided, Stephen Moffat has finally decided, no, this is what this character is.
Yeah.
It's just like, he's finally at his all the best writers don't use subtlety moment for the character, and it's fucking refreshing.
I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna put myself on blast for a moment. There was a point watching this episode where I was like, man, this feels really RTD vibes, and then I had to genuinely interrogate myself for a second because I was like, wait, does this have RTD vibes, or is it just good, and that's just what I call good Doctor Who?
Guy who only watches RTD watching his second Doctor Who episode. Wow, getting some real RTD vibes from this one.
Like, I know I'm that guy, but I didn't want to be that stereotypically that guy.
Just like real Doctor Who neo-lib moment. This thing I like must be from the thing I like.
like I think it's just the camp, but like,
yeah.
But like because there's like a style of camp where, I mean, so there's a little bit of Moffat like dommy mommyisms, I guess.
Indeed.
But there's not nearly as much.
I also think part of that is that like the first time we see River, and she's great, is with a Doctor who's not Matt Smith, and the last time we see River, it's great, and it's with a Doctor that's not Matt Smith. There's not that like weird, uncomfortable, like pseudo like horniness / like you're my mom energy. It's very
yeah. It feels it. I don't want to be super like that person that's like, oh, any age gap is inherently wrong because those people are really annoying. But there was just like a weird vibe, and I don't even know if it was as much the age gap as more as just like, I feel like a mismatch. And
yeah, I think it's more
maybe,
just like their energies aren't fit for each other.
And also because they play much more into the mystery of who she is that time around. He's always behind, and that there causes that to be like a weird imbalance, whereas here that's not the case, and when 10 was behind, it still worked. But yeah, and that's not here as much. Patreon backer listening in just chatted to comment that the litmus test is Fugitive of the Jadoon, and I'm actually going to disagree with that because Fugitive of the Jadoon, yes, it has plot bits potentially, but it doesn't have any of the actual soul and content of RTD that makes RTD RTD. So I disagree with that assertion. Though I do recognize that also potentially makes me be, once again, no, good Doctor Who, RTD vibes just means good Doctor Who. So, fuck me, I guess.
I mean, RTD also did some, like, clusterfuck finales, so I think...
Yeah, well, I mean, so did Moffat, but, like...
Yeah.
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 Anyways, so like, yeah, like this whole intro where it's just like a long comedy routine of like first like him being picked as the surgeon, and then like the just absolute cheese of River's interactions with Hydroflax and the Doctor just being like, oh fuck.
And then just like her bringing him to the back room and being like, okay, so I just need you to cut this guy's head off for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're talking about doing murder. And he's like, I'm not talking
Please
about
stop.
doing murder. I'm
Don't.
actually doing murder.
Please don't do a Scottish accent. Please
You're
don't.
welcome.
And the bit where he realizes where he sees to Nardole is like, oh, you really do think I'm a surgeon, don't you? And Nardole's like, oh no, and they both start like pissing and shitting themselves, and I'm reminded, because I'm me, of that one bit in Fallout New Vegas where Caesar asks you to do an operation to remove a brain tumor on him. And if you have a high enough medicine skill, you can just do it. But if you don't, you can just lie and say that you do and do it anyway and fucking kill him.
Based. The way 12 is just like, oh yeah, like, fuck this guy, he's a king. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, he goes off. I was like, oh my god, that's so good.
Yeah.
It's...
No, yeah, that whole initial interaction, again, you could say, like, why doesn't River recognize him? But they were clearly going by the, like, well, he has limits, and these are as many faces as he has. Ironically, the one henchman later on who's like, the Doctor has an infinite number of faces, and was like, fuck, he got the inside scoop. Yeah, it's just... It leads to a lot of good stuff. I don't even think it necessarily gets old, because they keep using it to explore how River is when the Doctor isn't around, because we legit have not gotten that, like, at all.
Yeah.
And even when we have, arguably, like, in the brief time when, like, Rory and Amy are back in the past in, like, Manhattan, and it's just her, like, that lasts for, like, maybe a scene or two. Like, this is a good exploration. It's a good excuse for, like, a conceit that otherwise might be annoying, or where the fluff and the pacing might, like, run it out quicker. Like, they know how to keep getting away with it, as well as making it funny.
Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, it's just the dumb shit with, like, okay, I like this episode enough that it doesn't really put that much of a damper on it, but I have to point it out because nitpicking is at least partially my job. That sonic trowel is one of the dumbest fucking things Stephen Moffat has ever done. It's fucking stupid, especially when she actually starts using it as a weapon, and even 12 is like, what the fuck? What? Um. Uh.
I like to think that was just like, I don't know, one of the weird ways she gets like sentimental. It's just like,
Yeah.
I don't fucking like, I miss him. I'm gonna like, I'm gonna make this thing, even though it's very situationally useful and otherwise just like a fucking paperweight. Like, yeah, it's pretty.
She's got a
it's pretty dumb.
thingamabob.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Exactly.
Every woman needs a thingamabob in her life.
Slay.
Anyways, Nardole unfortunately gets beheaded. F in chat for a king. He'll be back next episode. It'll be fine. River steals the TARDIS. The one thing that I think is pretty like funny. Some people may say like it's a bit Mary Sue-ish of River, but I feel like okay, so I gave the parking brake joke from like series 6 shit, but I do think the joke of like she just regularly like fucking steals it and then puts it back like exactly so he doesn't even notice it's gone. That's good. That's really good.
And then him going, well, maybe he's gonna start noticing now.
Yeah. That whole part was great. It made me, again, we could nitpick this that like logically she shouldn't have seen this TARDIS interior before, yet she like knows where she keeps the alcohol in it. But like, is it?
Well, she's been coming in and stealing it.
Yeah. She just steals it. Yeah,
that's true. She just hasn't accidentally run into this. She hasn't run into 12 for like 50 years at this point. She's just assumed it's still him.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she swings by when he's not around.
Let's just not talk. You know what? When she pulls out the photographs of Hartnell through Smith, did you guys think what I was thinking? Do I even need to say it at this point? It's been 2 years. Do I even need to say it at this point?
No.
I mean, honestly, my thought was, how has she seen all these other doctors if she didn't actually meet them?
I think in the Big Finish series, it's either like she doesn't meet them face to face, or like a perfect comedy of errors to make sure, or mind wipes or whatever to make sure that they don't run into her or don't remember running into her until the library.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Because Big Finish cannot help themselves.
And we love them for it.
Buy the fucking box set of Scrimblow Bimblow, the Lovable Scrunko from season 7, episode 3, right now for £60. Give Nick Briggs your money.
Yeah, I'd make some type of like timeless child joke, but honestly, like I would, out of all doctors that I think would not work with River, the fugitive doctor is one of them, because that doctor is basically River's personality. Or like at least her aggressiveness, not aggressiveness, like just self-assuredness, like over the board confidence. It just would not work. But regardless, no, listener, I will not entertain that.
No, fuck off. That's even worse. Yeah, that is worse.
Yeah. And where we're at this point, I'll bring up, I think the only place the episode goes too far with River is like, why is she like doing stuff with Ramon Like it makes sense with the
because
king.
she fucks.
No, I mean I don't care.
Did you forget? Did you forget the library where they implied that she's slept with that entire crew?
No, I'm just.
This is not something new.
I'm not saying it's new. I'm just saying, like, with what the episode is trying to say about her character, it seems redundant. Like it just takes up space that they didn't need to. I don't find the concept of how practically open their relationship is to be an issue. I'm not Catholic. It's just, I don't know, like the whole, like, oh yeah, I have married you, but you annoyed me, so I erased it from your mind. I was just like, that's not funny. I don't know. Just, again, it doesn't matter that much to me. It was just like we could have spent this 15 seconds somewhere else.
I do love their little exchange arguing off about, like, because he's like, so what's up with Ramon? And then she just starts like listing off his girlfriends, and he starts doing it back.
Yeah.
Cleopatra, same thing.
Yeah. I will say that the like, looking at this now, it's actually kind of weird. Like, this is a weird new thing of, I don't think this has necessarily happened before quite in this way, where an hour-long episode is actually fairly light on the actual plot that happens, not because of a monster plot or whatever, but just because it is an excuse for Alex Kingston and Peter Capaldi to riff on each other for an hour, which is why it is good.
It works so well. They click so great together.
They click better than Ten and River clicked, and Ten and River already clicked pretty well.
Yeah, I think I read like a joking interview, like, response that Matt Smith once gave. It's just like, you know, I feel protective over River and Alex, you know, like, that dynamic is mine. And I'm like, all respect to you, buddy, but, like,
you sucked shit at it.
like, and I don't even think, like, I think a lot of that was, like, the writing in, like, that dynamic, but it's just like, man, like, I don't know, get a better agent. I don't know.
No, it's fine. He made $100 billion more.
Yeah. I hope House of Dragon goes well for you, my man. You need a W.
It's not. Let's be real here.
It's possible.
Game of Thrones is cringe. No, it's not.
Well, I don't think Benioff and Weiss are involved in this at all, so at least it shouldn't be that bad. But off of that tangent,
I don't want to check Twitter in 2 weeks' time and see Matt Smith's dick on my timeline. I'm just putting it out there.
Same. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say it's like paced really well, because I'll be honest.
No, it's really weird and wonkily paced, but I don't care because it is entirely an excuse.
Exactly. It's just like, I just want to see these two characters interact. And whereas nowadays most of that is just like out of like fan service, like shallow, you know, member berries bullshit, and it like flies off the rails in 2 minutes. Like, this actually has substance to keep it going for the entire hour. Especially at the end. The ending, we'll get there. It's super, like, self-indulgent in what it, like, if you, like, hear the characters talk, it sounds like a topic that would come up in, like, AO3 or something. But, like, he does it anyway.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
He does it anyway, and it's fucking good. So, yeah.
I can't believe this romance here is more queer in feeling than Thasmin.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
It certainly feels like...
I mean...
Especially when you consider that 12 is an Arrow Ace icon.
Yeah,
So true.
well, no, it's like the line that stuck out to me this time was like, he says something like, "Oh, you look great," and she's just like, "Doctor, you have no idea how I look." And he's just like, "Well, you've done
Yeah.
something with your hair," and she's like, she's not annoyed by it. It's just like she's touched by like the effort
Yeah.
and from like aro ace relationships or queer platonic, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Yeah.
Like that dynamic is very much like present in parts. I wouldn't say it's like actually queer. It's just like,
And it's not it. Well, okay. So it's not intentional, but it is in the same way that Neon Genesis Evangelion feels very trans/queer, in the sense of like not intentional, but applicable and something a lot of people relate to.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. I could see that.
And it's embarrassing that something that wasn't intentional feels better and more authentic than something that was.
Well,
Please,
yeah,
RTD.
I mean the
Please
right
save us. Please save us, RTD.
the writing is at least there. Yeah. We've gone way past. I think at this point we've like arrived on the
Well,
the like
because
space.
like the spaceship, most of what happens on the spaceship doesn't really matter until they get to the point where it's crashing and they're both trying to pull the Rose Gambit on the other.
Yeah, and there's the whole reveal thing. I will say I do like the touch. I didn't catch it the first time I watched it because I was a little baby brain classical liberal in the making, but fucking the whole critique of like, oh, this is where like, you know, you have to be so rich to get on here that like it's inevitable that you've done like incredibly evil shit to just like work here. Like even the staff have to like have gone on a string of like murders. I think she has some line where it's just like, this is where genocide and like planet destroyers come to kick back and relax. And it's just like, that's how you fucking do like some like effortless social commentary in like 5 seconds. And it really never comes up again, but it's fucking true. So it's just like, again, like nice touches that like you didn't need to do that in this fucking Christmas special where it's just Capaldi and Kingston flexing their acting chops for an hour straight. You didn't have to, but you did. And it's like, it's those little moments along with like the character beats that make this like a solid watch.
Yeah. And just, this is an episode where like 30 like in a 60-minute long episode, like it is all just made for that last 5 minutes, and I am perfectly fine with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just, it's a good emotional payoff because it's just like
Yeah.
you get all that good lead in, and it's fun.
It is literally the most immaculate emotional payoff that Stephen Moffat does in his entire tenure, except for maybe the Missy arc. And it's astonishing because he did it for what I think outside of this and Silence in the Library is one of his worst fucking characters.
Yeah, I mean it's writing 101 or 102 that it's like, yes, you want to get to the good parts, but in order to do that, you need to have something leading up there. And I think that was one of our main critiques of like the entirety of Series 6 is that major events kept on fucking happening with little to no build-up, where it was just they decided we were going to do this next monumental thing now, act like it has weight to it. And this time it actually fucking does. They even bother to like, there were these shorts where like Matt Smith, like 11 was trying to take River on a date and different doctors kept coming in to the TARDIS, and it was a whole like, it was basically like a comedy short, but like the last shot is 11 taking River to Beryllium, and it's implied that it's their last night together. And I like that the episode even fucking bothers to have a throwaway line of like, you kept on bringing me here, but you would cancel at the last minute and we would go somewhere else. Like, what's going on with that? Like, the actual attention to detail, it fucking respects the legacy of these characters, even when, like, the majority of the time that these characters have had together hasn't been, like, all that great. It still, like, manages to uplift it, which I think is, like, pretty fucking special. Because, like, I look back at this relationship between the two characters fondly, mostly because of this episode.
Yeah. And I feel like there's been, like, you know, there was the romance, like, I guess really all we've had is the Doctor and Rose, and the Doctor and Clara, and the Doctor and River, and Thasmin, but this feels like the most thoughtful and mature. This 5 minutes feels like the most thoughtful and mature of what it means for the Doctor to truly love someone in a way that I don't feel like has been explored previously.
Yeah. Bang on.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, and him giving her the sonic screwdriver.
Yes. Perfectly linking it back up again. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And just the whole sequence of, like, crash landing there and then handing the guy the diamond and then passing into the future and then passing it again.
Yeah.
Like, woo, time travel.
Yeah, actually good. It's like this episode is like good, and then the ship crashes and it jumps up to like an A+.
Yes.
Like, and it's really like, it's a moment where, ironically for Moffat, I feel like despite the outlandish circumstances that get them to that point, and these somewhat ridiculous, though still understandable circumstances, for how he resolves the emotional tension with the night on Beryllium, it's surprisingly grounded and thoughtful, and not big zany, big, ooh, I'm Moffat, I'm so smart, ooh, dib.
Yeah. It's, I mean, there's the whole, like, I think it was even a repeated, like, trope in Matt Smith's, like, it was a repeated line that the Doctor doesn't like endings, and through character development, or, you know, whatever, going through the whole Clara experience and then forgetting it, he's like, it's clear that at a point he's just like, no, things end. Like, sometimes that's just it. And it's a weird moment of, like, maturity over River, who, like, when they first met, she said the same thing to him, way back in series 4. It's a nice, like, full circle moment. And, like, I'm trying to think of a moment where, like, 12 regresses as a character from that point, but I don't think he does. Which I think, you know, even, like, he thinks it's his time to end, to, like, die when, you know, he doesn't want to regenerate anymore. And
also considering what led up to that, that's pretty fucking understandable, buddy.
But it's like, again, I saw a tweet on this, like, I think it was like a week ago or something, where it's just like, the ending of 12's run feels more trans than, like, the entirety of 13's run, and she's literally a woman. It's just like his whole thing of, like, okay, well, this chapter of my life has ended. If I'm going on, it might as well be like this. And of course we have no confirmation of that, but it's just, again, it's nice to see, like, some mature writing for
Yeah.
the Doctor when what we've had after that has basically been, I don't want to talk about my fifis, which, like, sure, you can do that in a properly done way, but it isn't. So, yeah, this whole, like, last conversation where it's just close-ups on their face and occasional, like, wide shots of the scenery they're in. It's, like, super simple. It's super stripped back. It's not something you really get in Doctor Who that often. When it's not just, like, aside from, like, villain and, like, hero monologuing and bullshit, it's super nice. I don't know. We could talk about this scene for, like, another 20 minutes. It's that good.
Yeah, and it really does feel like an important step past Clara into this last era of 12 in this last season, where he feels much more content,
in control,
and content, collected,
self-actualized,
kindly, yeah. And it's this way of, like, it honestly, like, it's not super overstated, and it's in fact very understated. And it really feels like it is entire, like, some of it is through the situations that Moffat places the Doctor in, but I feel like a lot of it is through the evolution in the visual presentation of 12's character, and just how Capaldi portrays that character. It is just like, I still think that the RTD era is better, but there is a reason why 12 is my favorite Doctor, even if I don't like his era as much on an episode sense as the others, just because of he really put his whole Capaldussy into this one.
I was ready for it. Fuck.
I felt it, like, I felt it coming. Like, you just had this, like, cadence.
Yeah.
Like,
You
oh
felt,
my God.
you could hear the sentence ping in my brain of, like, oh, that's where I'm going with this. Like, I literally thinking it up and going, like, oh, okay, that's what I'm going to say here.
And yeah, God. Do we know when, like, the first season of, like, Arrow came out? It was probably before this.
It was like 2012, I think.
Okay, then never mind. I was thinking, like, in my mind, I was just like, and Alex Kingston goes on to play
Yeah, 2012.
Dinah Lance's mom. Yeah, for like 2 episodes. But yeah, never mind. That was in the past. No, they do some great work. I'm not gonna rephrase it like Geoff does, because I want to keep my soul. But yeah, I would say, to put how I feel about this episode in, like, a sentence or two, it's like, for most Christmas specials, I would say you could probably skip them, but this one really feels like a pivotal, like, transitional moment for 12, where I don't think, like, his character arc makes less sense from, like, the end of series 9 to 10 if you don't have this context. I'm gonna guess that's not gonna be true of whatever the fuck the next one is.
I have only seen that episode once.
Same.
When it aired in 2016.
I don't have any memory of it, so it's probably someone
I
else
remember
probably
it
saw
being
it.
entirely fluff and filler, but I also, that was before I had the appreciation for Capaldi that I do now. So who knows?
Yeah. It's just also, okay, I know where my mind was going. Somehow, the fucking genius madman that he is, Moffat manages to have, like, a good emotionally resonant point of, like, things have to end, you know, we can't keep going on forever. And then she asks, how long is a night in Beryllium? And he says 26 years. And that line, that idea could easily be seen as a fucking cop-out, but because we
No, it's actually it's better than the previous Moffat cop out from the next episode by leagues and leagues and leagues, because it's not forever, but it is a measure of time. What he's able to do is actually provide meaningful closure and connection to this character, and with this doctor of like a length of time that is meaningful to her. Obviously, it's not meaningful to him, but he lives for thousands of years. But yeah,
no, it manages. It's like they've earned it. They've earned their happy ending, and it's not a happy ending because they like end up like growing old together and dying together. But it's like, it's what she says, that like happily ever after just means that you have time, that you had those memories, and that you built those connections, and it's a follow through on that.
There's the text at the end, which is where I'm pretty sure where you're going.
Honestly, I think I don't think the text is a negative. I think it kind of drives the point.
No. I think it's good too. Of it, they lived happily ever after, and it takes it out to just say, they lived happily.
No,
there is no such thing as happily ever after.
Yeah, they lived happily, and that's a good sentiment, because as you said, it's not forever, and they've fucking earned it, because even if I never really bought 11 and River together, I bought that in the library two-parter that they had that history.
Yes,
and
that's yes, absolutely. That's to circle back around to my thoughts on River during 11. That is something I routinely called out, of her involvement aside from the Angels two-parter was only ever in event episodes, and she never became a full-time companion, so you never really got to feel a connection occur. Even while he takes the economic option and has it happen entirely off screen, he does provide a concrete window of space where it's like, yes, this is a lengthy, extended period of time where they are together.
Yeah, and I think it's good that it's just sort of left up to the imagination what happens at that time, because you can just sort of imagine they just like chill out for 24 years pretty much, and just like have a normal relationship for a while.
Yeah Absolutely. That's about it for what I have to say on this great episode. I'm ready to move on to ratings if everybody else is.
I think the only last thing I have to say is that there's a lot of like small comedic, cheesy, like the type of humor you usually expect from like these holiday Christmas specials, a pastiche, etc. And I think it's all done pretty serviceably. The only time I kind of like rolled my eyes was when 12 like goes to that random guy twice, and it's just like, oh, he had a bad day on the market. Sorry, that's not that funny, but I couldn't help myself. Like, that was the only moment, but even then, it's just like, at that point, you're having so much fun, the crash is happening, you don't care. It's just a lot of silly, goofy times while Alex Kingston and Peter Capaldi work like gold in the foreground. But we kind of skipped over that whole section, and I just want to like state for the record, I thought that whole sequence of events was like pretty fun. It was good. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, no, it's as I said, it's a perfectly serviceable and entertaining Christmas special up until the end, where they really start managing to somehow make meaningful, truly good payoff for this fucking otherwise awful character that I really didn't like, and I still don't like outside of these specific 3 episodes, and I guess maybe Name of the Doctor, maybe. Peter Capaldi's great, Alex Kingston's great. good enough that I do kind of wish they showed up again at some point or had an actual series together. Like, you know, I'm always one for saying that I feel like the format should be a little bit more malleable, and that we've kind of been going on a very structurally and vibes wise similar format for the past almost 20 years at this point. And I think a format with like this explicit couple dynamic in the TARDIS instead of this, like a more equal dynamic instead of a doctor and companion dynamic, would be interesting, and a cool venue to explore. But also knowing that we get Bill and Nardole next, I'm not exactly going to complain, and I'm at least glad that we got this one good bit. Yeah, this one's an A+. This is, I don't think it's my favorite Christmas special, because I feel like there are others that are actually better, like Christmas specials, and also I don't think anything's going to beat how fucking deranged Voyage of the Damned is. But yeah, A+.
Yeah, this episode, man. I don't know. It's the chemistry is just there. It's there in a way that it just hasn't been with this relationship between the Doctor, the character, and River Song. And for the first time since Library, I see like, oh, this is like, these are why these two are good together. And not just in a like conceptual way, but like I feel it. And I think that's this episode's biggest triumph. All the side characters are like serviceable to like funny and fun at best. Everything else pretty much takes a backstage to the Doctor and River, but that's fine because, you know, we know that's what we're here for. Plot is kind of a nothing burger after that. It's just an excuse, but it's well shot. I don't know. There's good music. It's like, what else do you say when everything is just like window dressing for the main event? The final conversation itself is just like a perfect whatever, like 5-ish minutes of television. Like once you get to that point, you just like sit back and let the magic unfold in front of you. It introduced us to Nardole, which of course, you know, is gonna step into the spotlight, I would say like properly in series 10, which is great. This feels again like a great transitional moment in 12's character arc, where he becomes like the Chad, punches a racist, goes blind and doesn't tell his companion, Mega Chad. Like, I don't know, we're gearing up for some fun, people. Yeah, really great episode. It's a strong 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, like you said, it's just, there's not much you can say about this episode besides just talking about how good the Doctor and River are together. And you know, we've always had like a soft spot for River, as with all things Moffat. Yeah, it's just a really rewarding end to something that we are heavily invested in, and it's really good. It's just very sentimental, and we enjoy it a lot. So I'd give it like a 9 out of 10.
All right. So next week, we will be discussing the 2016 Christmas special, The Return of Dr. Mysterio, because we are, of course, returning back into that phase of the show where they just fucking randomly just not do anything for an entire year. Which is also honestly one of the reasons of why I kind of fell out of favor with the show around this time, was just there fucking wasn't anything. Yeah. Until then, you can follow us on Twitter at B2TARDISPod. You can support us on Patreon for a number of benefits, such as early access to episodes, the ability to listen in live to episodes being recorded, and potentially even the ability to guest star upon an episode of your choosing. I'm Jeff. You can follow me on Twitter at WheatleyDL.
I am a PhD scholar in Domimamiism. You can follow me on Twitter at Ahura Borealis.
I don't think that's the first episode where she's had that name.
No.
Oh my god.
Last episode too.
Okay, well, whoever heard it last time clearly didn't appreciate the joke.
Thank you.
Anyways, I'm Tyga, and you can follow me and the other bitches at Until Fear Leaves at twitter.com, because yes, we made a new Twitter. Don't tell the Twitter police.
Neat. And we will see you all next week.